Buenos dias. Good morning. How is everybody doing? Welcome, everyone. We're so glad that you're joining us today for this LinkedIn Live. We're waiting to see that it goes live on LinkedIn. It takes a little bit of time for it to go live, but this is seeing if it will. And so as long as you see the countdown, then we're good.
No.
Okay.
Hold on.
So while she checks on that, thank you. Thank you for joining us. Yes, we are good to go. Buenos dias. Thank you for joining us for this first Hispanic Heritage Month LinkedIn Live. You check the box as a Latino Hispanic leader. Now what? Right? And so to celebrate this year's Hispanic Heritage Month, we are here today. My name is Dr. Patty Delgado. I am the Executive Director at El Puente Institute, and I'm here with my comadre, Dr. Patricia.
Buenos dias. Again, hello, my name is Patricia Conde Brooks, and I am the Director of Research at El Puente Institute. We thank you for spending this morning with us in this pivotal beginning of the Hispanic Heritage Month. This month, we decided to have the theme for us to be heritage to leadership, to create voices that shape our future. So we are talking about what brought us here today, but also focusing on the future. And we'll be moving with intentionality and influence today and see how we can help celebrate. However, we do want to acknowledge that before we get started, that this may be a difficult time for our community. In a way, this month can feel celebratory in some ways, but in other ways, we know that many in our community have scaled back in celebrating and may be hesitant to do that. And I'll go back and say that celebration, joy is a form of resistance. So we want to celebrate as a form of resistance, but we want to let you know that we understand that there may be some pressure and some, but you're not alone today. But what we're hoping to do is sort of turn this in our culture, who we are, as an asset, and specifically focus on how do we move forward in being able to base ourselves in our cultura. So for today, we have 30 minutes, a small agenda. We have a small agenda. We're going to be.
I just want to add real quick. We know that. No, go ahead.
We have three things. We're going to talk about our cultural scripts, so our familismo, respeto, personalismo, and how do they show up in our leadership, and how do we transform them into cultural drivers. Then we want to give you 3 simple steps, the framework for you to begin to integrate your cultural strengths in your everyday leadership. And lastly, we will share some examples with you, a couple of small scenarios in which you can see how you activate your Latinidad into your leadership.
And I also want to add thank you for the acknowledgement about our community. It's okay if you're feeling pride during this month, and then also pressure. You're not alone. Today is about turning the reality of our current situation into small leadership agencies for us to collectively create a full influence. So even though you are in your own community, in your own families, you too have agency to create change and influence. And so that is another big part of what we're doing this month during Hispanic Heritage Month, is empowering you to make those small changes. So we wanted to talk about this topic about you are now a Latino leader, now what, right? Because a lot of us are onlys in leadership roles. We find ourselves being the only Latina or Latino in the leadership roles. So now we check the box. And what we're going to do is, Patricia mentioned, give you a lot of little tips of how to do this. But representation isn't everything now as a Latino leader, right? You have to move your representation into influence. And that's where the what now comes in. And so this is the big part of today's LinkedIn Live.
Yeah, exactly. Because representation without influence really is just tokenism. And we have a real opportunity to turn our culture into action. How shaping our decisions, how do we mentor others, and how do we shift systems? And we know, because of all the research and the work that we have done at El Puente Institute, that we can transform what we call cultural scripts, and I'll go a little bit into that in a minute, into what we call cultural drivers, which become our superpowers. So you may be asking yourself, what are cultural scripts? And I will say that cultural scripts are behaviors that we inherited from our culture. They're sort of like the unwritten rules, how we greet people, how we show up, up sometimes how we make decisions. Quite often, they tell us how to act or not to act. What we may consider to be respectful, what is normal in our societal situations. For examples, many Latinos will say familismo, putting the family first is the most important thing. I saw an interview yesterday with Eva Longoria, asked her what she thought was the most strongest way in which she saw herself as a Latina, and she said, because I cared about my family. And
Mhm.
so that is a cultural script. But at the El Puente Institute, we have studied, researched, and have come up with, ways in which we can turn those cultural scripts in what we call cultural drivers. And so, what makes it a cultural drivers are three things: is awareness, our conscious control, and empowerment. So the awareness of the cultural drivers is being able to name them, being able to know what they are, how they show up, what the choices that we're making. How do we consciously control them? Building the skill to manage the script with intention, to
Mhm.
manage what is it working for me? Is it not working for me? Is it something that in this situation is pulling me back or giving me an advantage? And then how do I know now that I have this awareness and this conscious control? How does it empower me? How does it become my superpower? Because when they're embraced, that's when it becomes this cultural driver. And that is what we're here to talk to you about today.
Perfect.
So we'll begin with you're saying, oh, that might be a lot. I don't. How do I get started?
Mhm.
And we'll give you a little shortcut, even though we can go into it more with our training culture, master classes, and other things. But it's a simple. We started with what we called notice, name, and navigate. So the notice is when we first become aware of how our culture shows up, right? It takes intentionality, it takes self-awareness. We have to stop and think about how does it show up. Then we name it, we put language to it. It doesn't just feel like something. Now we can call it something, right? So it's really important to give it names and definitions and knowledge and self-awareness. And lastly, how do I navigate it? How do I apply it intentionally into my leadership? How do I intentionally work with this? Does it help me or does it help me pull back? So we notice, name, and navigate, and that's what helps us get this cultural norms, this cultural values, in what we call a cultural driver.
I love that. I love how you're able to explain it. There's so many people we talk to, and I know you do as well, Patricia, and I do, about like I know my culture influences my leadership. Like I know it's there, but what do I do with it? How do I feel like I don't have to assimilate, right? Like how can I be empowered and stay authentic in who I am? And so us educating what a cultural script is to a culture driver is super important. So I'm going to give you some examples of some of the cultural scripts that El Puente Institute has studied extensively and is now part of what we're going to talk about today. So familismo is one that Dr. Patricia mentioned. It's about leading and treating your team like family, right? It's supporting holistically everybody that's under you as a leader or even that you work around. Respeto is another one, right? How we model respect across levels, not just upward, right? That we see that respect is delivered across to everybody on, on your team, in your building, whatever it is in your workplace. Personalismo is the importance and that value of building strong relationships. We like to get to know each other. We like to platicar. We like to comadrear. There's so much that we like to do. It's all part of the personalismo cultural script. And another one is simpatia. And simpatia is one that shows up a lot in a lot of the research that we're doing. It's showing up that it's one of the main scripts where we bring warmth, we bring harmony. We try to do a lot of conflict resolution. It's the need to be polite. So those are a couple of examples of the scripts that we know at El Puente Institute influences your leadership. And we're going to give scenarios today. We want to make this kind of like a real life scenario of how to first use this notice, name, and navigate framework for you to use your cultural scripts and turn them into cultural drivers. So, Patricia, I'm going to do a quick scenario, and please chime in if you have anything to add. So that let's use this whole notice, name, and navigate. Okay, so let's say that, and I'm kind of using this as a script. You're in a meeting and it's moving super fast, and you see that this meeting is going nowhere, right? You feel the need to protect this person that you're in the meeting with. Let's say it's your boss or your coworker or a VP. That is your simpatia showing up because you have this need to maybe let the meeting go as long as it needs to go, or really not, voice your opinion. So again, simpatia is the cultural script that centers around the warmth, kindness, pleasant interactions that we like to do. We're friendly. We always give besos when we see people. That's simpatia. So now, Patricia, I'm going to put it into notice, name, and navigate, and you tell me how I did, because
Mhm,
you're the profesora. So you tell me how I did. So as a Latino leader, I noticed I'm avoiding saying something, or
mhm,
I'm avoiding, to push back because I don't agree with something. So I'm noticing that my simpatia is playing a role in my behavior. Then I'm naming it. Okay, this simpatia. This is what's showing up. This is the value that is really now either having a value, what we call a value rub, or it's really amplifying as an empowerment. Then I navigate and I have to think to myself, and I think, and I'd love for you to add your input, Patricia, because when you navigate, I think that's super hard, right? Like as Latino leaders, right? What do we say when we're caught in this situation? How are we sure that we're polite? And so this is my take in navigating the situation. So I'm going to use what we call at Puentes to the bridge phrase. There's a lot that we're going over today, boss, VP, whoever I'm in the meeting with. There's a lot that we're going over, and I want to keep us aligned. However, I see a risk that we might be missing. I would like to offer my opinion and give you some clarity. So that's kind of the dialogue that I would use in this meeting, right? To ensure that it's not just going nowhere and that I put my voice in the room. What do you think, Patricia? Feedback. I did a quick notice, name, navigate.
yeah. And so if you think about it, it starts with a self-awareness, right? To think and research, literature, education will tell you that we don't stop being who we are when we walk into rooms with leadership situations, right? We bring it with us, and it's just having that awareness. Yes, in our culture, we are taught to be simpáticos, sé querida, sé amable, be
Right.
nice, be
Mhm.
friendly. We are known to be at times conflict avoidance because harmony is that's what simpatia says. So a lot of times we may be perceived as those people, and we've heard this from a lot of individuals who have taken our master
Mhm.
class, that they said, "Oh, I didn't speak up," or people think that I'm, not likely to push back because the simpatia, because we were taught be good, behave. So yeah, Patty, you name it, you notice it, but now you have a name. Now you can navigate
Yes.
it. Now you can
I know
name it.
it's
You can say, "Oh,
simpatia.
that's simpatia. This is what I've been
Right.
taught. This is what's valued in my group. This is how we behave." And so you can name it, but then now you can navigate it. That's your superpower now.
Yes.
Simpatia at this plus, it can make us very friendly, very warm. People are likely to like want to work with us. But on the other hand, it can pull us back. And in this case, it was pulling you back. But now when you navigate it, when you give it some actions, some words, some
Mhm.
practices, it allows you to move forward and and be able to now sort of take a hold, be in charge, and
Right.
be and use this because the response that you gave was still respectful, it was still pleasant,
Yes.
but now you were taking over and you were able to work with others. So yeah, that's kind of what it is. You notice, you name, you navigate it,
Yes.
but it takes awareness, it takes
It does.
awareness.
And it is difficult. I want to say the phrase again, right? Because I think we don't have enough language in our community to counter these type of situations. So that's one thing we do. We do teach a lot in our executive masterclass is language. So I'm going to say it again. So again, I'm in this meeting. It's going nowhere. There is a lot that we are going over here today, and I want to keep us very much aligned. However, I see a risk that we might be missing. Let me go ahead and go over that with you. So it's something just as simple as that. And I thank you for explaining that now simpatia didn't take control of me. Now I'm driving the culture script of simpatia. So now it is a cultural driver. So that's a beautiful thing. I mean, these cultural scripts and values are, like you said, around us. They're who we are. We see it when we talk to different Latino leaders. They don't have to be an obstacle. And that's what we're here to inform you all as Latino leaders and Latinos in the workplace. They are your asset. They help you build trust, lead inclusively, and of course, inspire loyalty. So yeah, so that's my scenario. I'm going to hand it to you. Your
Yeah.
scenario next.
Yeah. So I have another scenario. Imagine that you're the only And many
Yeah.
of us know what that feels like to be the only, the one and only, probably sometimes the first Latino, Latina in the leadership meeting.
Mhm.
The conversation is speeding towards a decision, and you feel like you need to keep the peace and not rock the boat. So you shrink, you hold back, calladitas, más bonitas, maybe entering into your head. You're looking at the room and seeing the power dynamics in the room, and you may be saying, "Ugh." But instead of shrinking and just being the token representation, did you leverage your respeto and personalismo? Did you shift the tone of the conversation? Did you come into your power? So let's use notice, name, and navigate. You notice: am I holding back? Am I speaking? Does it feel like people are talking over me? Am I not pushing back because who I think is in the room? I'm not giving, the respeto, then you name it and you go, is it respeto? And respeto, that is a huge cultural script in our community. We hierarchy, who we give respect to generationally, it affects us, who we're working with. And so then are we asking for the clarity and dignity? And then lastly, are we using personalismo? Asking for connection, asking to learn more so that you know something about, I want to know something about you, so you know something about me. So now that we have personalismo, or I'm just keeping quiet, right? So now you can navigate it because you are aware, yes, my behavior at this time could be influenced by my culture. We're not saying that every behavior, every meeting is influenced by your culture. That's not what we're saying. But is once you start to have the cultural self-awareness, you start to think, well, perhaps it is. Not always, but perhaps in this situation it is. It's about those behaviors that become rooted in our everyday, but now we can think about it differently. And then how can you navigate this cultural script, this norm that I have, this grown thing into a cultural driver, right?
Yeah.
What are we going? So so let's provide some dialogue, some strategies to move forward. So Patty, what would you say?
Okay. So that's a hard one, right? Because there are people that the onlys are the first in meetings. So when we look at respeto, this is some dialogue strategies, what we call that you could say in a situation like this where the meeting's going really fast. So you could say something like, out of respect for everyone's time, because there you're showing respect. Out of respect for everyone's time, can we name the decision owner and the top two criteria we need to find solutions for before we end this meeting? That's kind of a way that we could say that.
Mhm.
Or, I want to honor the work that's gone in today. However, I'm seeing a risk we haven't addressed. I would like to speak to that now. And the last one that we have for you all is to keep us aligned. That's always a great one because it's always important in organizations to stay aligned, right? With the focus. To keep us aligned, here's a concise concern and a proposed solution that I have for you. With respeto, you're still creating clarity and you're still doing it with candor. And that's how you use respeto as a cultural driver. And so, Patricia, what do you think about personalismo? Patricia and I have really looked into these and created dialogues that we can now start practicing to use. But personalismo is so important.
Yeah, and that's about warmth and trust that
Right.
moves us at work, right? To creating those personal relationships. So perhaps you say to Jordan, our member, fixed station member in the meeting, I appreciate how you frame the client risk and all your insights. But not to build on that, can we hear from other voices in the room? Can we hear from someone that hasn't spoken up? And that allows us to bring other voices in, right? The personalismo. It allows us to say, Cindy, you're an expert on finance. What's your insight? You can stop the meeting and say, hey, let's take a quick pulse. If it affects the team directly, raise your hand and we'll start to name this on the board and we get the perspectives before we make a decision. So we're doing our collective personalismo. We're trying to get the voices of everybody in the room. Um, and then you can slow down the meeting and say, we can take 2 minutes to summarize what we're hearing and check if we're missing frontline input. Does that sound good? So it's a way in which we're using those assets, that personalismo that we bring together, our community togetherness, to be able to, now realize that, yes, I can speak up, I can push back with respect,
With
and
respect.
and I can create these connections, the personalismo. I can create something that comes so innate to me, which is including others, learning what others are thinking, others' perspective into this conversation. And now is my superpower. Now is my cultural driver.
Yes, yes. I so love that. And we have loved really researching this part of our work is the language, is the dialogue that Latino leaders and Latinos in the workforce can use, especially in times like this, to showcase. And I apologize, my dog is barking, and so if you hear her, she has a voice, and so I just wanted to excuse my dog that's barking in the back. But when collectivismo comes in, because that's another script, right, Patricia, that we talk about collectivismo. There's also ways that you can bring that into your dialogue, into your leadership in a meeting like this. So, like another dialogue or recommendation you can say is, let's do a 30-second check-in with each department. Or if you want to create bridge phrases like what we talked about earlier, you can say, so and so, yes, that solution sounds great. And to hit the deadline, here's a small adjustment that I recommend that we add. Lastly, collectivismo is about valuing the group. And in our research, a lot of Latinos score high in collectivismo. So we do value the group and what the group is thinking and how they're feeling. We can always say, and this one's easy because it comes naturally to say, let's say her name is Maya. Maya, can you expand on that one action item you talked about the other day? Because it was really important. So we're bringing people in the room. Now you're just not the token Latino. Now you're just not the individual just sitting watching this dynamic happening. You are now an influential part of the solution. And so that is the part of cultural drivers that we are here today to start educating and giving you awareness about. So you're the Latino leader. Now what? Well, the now what is you have cultural assets to help you through it, where you can notice, you can name, and now you can navigate. So it's super exciting for us to share all of this with you.
Yeah, yeah, and I probably mentioned it already, and I'll say it again. It's about that self awareness, right? As leaders, good leaders have good self awareness. That is one of the characteristics, the traits. Cultural intelligence. Some people would say moves beyond
Mhm.
cultural, self awareness to cultural intelligence. But what we're talking about when it means our Latino leadership, right? We check the box. We say we were Latinos. What does that mean? And that is the cultural self-awareness and cultural intelligence. And that cultural intelligence is really deeply learning what shaped me. How did I come up? What am I bringing in the room with me? What are the voices or the norms that were told to me? And so, it helps you when you start to think about it and you have a framework to do it. It
Mhm.
helps you move into this direction. And so I think, Patty, this is a really good time for us to really kind of delve in into how we're going to help you do that, because we get this
Yes.
question a lot. We for the last 2 years we've been doing master classes, we've been doing a lot of educational workshops, we've been working with some wonderful ERGs, worked with different companies and organizations, and we've introduced the concept. And a lot of times folks go, but I want to know more about me. What is that about me? How do we do it? And so we have been working on this. Now it's actually 3 years, and we're ready
Years.
to. I wish I had a
Share.
drum. I wish I had a drum.
A drum roll, right? We're ready to
Yeah.
share. So during this year in Hispanic Heritage Month, when things are uncertain, we wanted to give everybody, our familia, which are you all, an opportunity to learn about what this looks like, specifically personalized for you. And so we are launching first and ever at the drum roll. I'm going to put it here on our banner, is a cultural drivers profile assessment. This cultural drivers profile assessment is a one of a kind tool that's going to give you a personal roadmap on how to notice and name your own Latino Hispanic cultural scripts, and also how they show up in your leadership. So this assessment is for any Latino in the workplace right now that is wanting to really dig into a leadership trait that is now connected to their cultura, to who they are, to our heritage. So the new assessment is the Cultural Drivers Profile Assessment. And like I said, it's a first of a kind tool specifically for the Latino community. So if you are an organization that leads Latinos, has a large Latino workforce, this assessment is an amazing professional development tool for them to use and to start growing in their leadership, to ensure that they're using their culture as their cultural strength, having that cultural intelligence and self-awareness. It's an amazing assessment. We're super excited about launching this assessment for you all.
Yeah. So many assessments measure traits, but this one is different. This one measures how culture influences your leadership. It is the heartbeat of who you are as a Latino. You check the box. That is, now you're going to find out what's deeply inside the box.
Mhm.
It was developed by Latinos for Latinos. We took some, I can go into the theoretical framework and the
Which
research
we're
around
happy to do.
this. And I could do all of that and say, yes, there are many, we share some of the same characteristics with other cultures, but this was specifically tied to research that has been done just within Latino communities in the past. Some of the research that I have conducted and Patty have conducted and the Puente Institute has done, and now we're gonna use it to continue our research as part of what we're doing, but be able for you to have that self-awareness, be able to name it. It is more than a personality test or a cognitive test. It's a mirror that reflects your Latino values and influence and the way you lead, collaborate, and most of all, when it becomes that cultural driver, how do you succeed? It translates our cultural intelligence into leadership strengths.
Mhm.
It helps you identify how your culture empowers your leadership and where you may be limited for the potential, because it's going to give you areas in which you may be maximizing our culture and areas where you may be minimizing our culture. And lastly, it is anchored with authenticity while giving you tools to adapt across diverse environments. We're launching it out. We our esthetician we did a we've been doing some pilots. We've been sending it out. Patty took it out to the conference out in the West Coast with the Lenient Latinas, and we had
Mm.
a pilot group that we discussed the results. We were really wanting to listen for positive feedback. So this is something that has been vetted, and it is statistically proven. We have used scales to measure all of this, and we just wanted to just the rigor that has gone into doing this. It has been very thoughtful, and even today, we're still thinking, like any good research, any new theory that you're working on, it could be open for shaping and changing, but it's
Sure.
going to be shaping and changing with the Latino community, because
Yeah.
we're going to be using all the information and that we gathered as we get to measure the cultural scripts by generations, by countries, by first, second immigration. We'll be able to have all this good data your personal profile. It gives you now that noticing, naming, navigating it. So it has really been probably the culmination
I
of
know.
many years of my work and research. I'm super excited about it. I'm almost emotional about it.
So it is going to launch Monday, September 22nd. So stay connected with us as we do this launch and start putting this out there. Hispanic Heritage Month is not only about celebrating our heritage. We want to do that, but it's also, especially now more than ever, it's about activating the role that you're playing in your families as a leader, in your communities, in your cities, in your work environments. So this is why our campaign this Hispanic Heritage Month is from heritage to leadership, because our voice definitely is going to shape the future. We all know our numbers today. So we're going to continue talking each week about the topic of name, navigate, notice. And so we challenge you for the next 24 hours with the information that you just heard today. And I know there was a lot, but notice, is there a cultural script that kind of shows up a lot for you in your workplace? Is familismo one of them? Is personalismo? What is it that is for you? So we challenge you to take that away today. In the next 24 hours, identify if there is one that is there for you and showing up the most for you. So next week, we will be here again live on Wednesday, the 24th. We're going to speak about how to amplify your bicultural leadership, understanding again the framework that we provided to you, notice, name, and navigate, and also understanding moving our cultural scripts to a cultural driver. And remember, we're ready to launch this cultural drivers profile assessment on Monday. So stay with us. Dr. Patricia, any last words for our familia that has watched this?
No, just I think just celebrate. I started with the same thing. Celebrate our Latinidad. Celebration is a form of resistance. Joy is a form of resistance. So we can celebrate our community and yeah, just be look out on Monday when we get the assessment out and let us know what you think. Hopefully, maybe by next week, a few folks have taken the plunge and taken the assessment and can share it in the LinkedIn Live what they're thinking about it.
Yes, definitely. So mil gracias. Thank you again. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe. And we will see you all next week at our LinkedIn Live again next week. Adios.
Buenas